So welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to our lecture series called Daily News in Shorts. In this lecture series, we cover a particular day's current affairs in a short span of time within 30 minutes. The idea behind this lecture series is very simple. We want you to cover your current affairs and we want you to cover them on a daily basis. But you can't spend your entire day just reading the newspaper, right? So this lecture series would shorten the time for your current affairs preparation. You would cover that day's current affairs in a very short span of time within 30 minutes. Now, just after watching this lecture in 30 minutes, you have to spend another 20 minutes revising this lecture. Okay? Because revision is very important if you really want to consolidate these current affairs in your memory permanently. Revision is very instrumental for that. So 30 minutes of watching this lecture and 20 minutes of revising, and in about 50 minutes time, you'll be done for the day as far as current affairs are concerned. Now your entire day is freed up to cover other parts of your UPSC syllabus. So make this lecture series a part of your daily. It should be a daily habit of yours. Now, where can you revise these current affairs from? Well, along with this lecture, we shall share the notes for this lecture, and these notes shall be shared on our Telegram channel. Now, where can you find this Telegram channel? Well, along with this video, in just below this video in the comment section, I have shared a link. That link will take you to our Telegram channel from where you can download the notes and spend the necessary 20 minutes revising this lecture. All right? Okay. So enough of the introduction. Let's straight away jump into the lecture, starting with taking a look at today's topics. So what are today's topics? Okay. Today's topics are as following. Number one, US Bitcoin Strategic Reserve. Okay. Recently, President-elect Donald Trump has announced that he is going to create a strategic reserve for Bitcoin. Now, what are strategic reserves and how would a strategic reserve for Bitcoin would really help US out? Okay, we'll talk about this. Then we'll talk about sovereign gold bond scheme. Recently, reports are coming out that government is going to discontinue with the sovereign gold bond scheme. Now, what is this scheme and why is the government deciding to discontinue this scheme? We'll talk about this issue. Then recently, scientists and experts have come out with an advisory for Punjab's farmers. They are saying that Punjab's farmers should quit wheat and rice and start cultivating barley. It would be really helpful for Punjab, for its farmers and country as a whole. So why is barley so important? We'll talk about this. And in the end, we'll talk about Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Kuwait, a very important visit, especially with respect to India's engagement with the Gulf countries. All right. So we'll talk about these four issues. Okay. So let's start our discussion starting with topic number one, which is US Bitcoin Strategic Reserve. Okay. Now, what is in the news? Recently, President-elect Donald Trump announced that in his term, during his administration, he would create a strategic reserve for Bitcoin. Now, just after this announcement, the price of Bitcoin hit a record high of $107,000. Okay. Now, what does Donald Trump mean by this announcement? Okay. What do we mean by strategic reserves? First of all, let's talk about this. Okay. Then we'll talk about how strategic reserves for Bitcoin would help US out. So what are strategic reserves? Let's take a look at the definition. It is a stock of critical resource which can be released at a time of crisis or supply disruptions. Okay. So basically, strategic reserves for any commodity is a stock, okay, which can be utilized during emergencies. So during 1975, USA created a strategic reserve for petroleum. The reason was that during those days, during 1970s, Gulf countries used to restrict supply of petroleum, which lead to losses in America. Okay, so to create a regular supply of petroleum, USA created a strategic petroleum reserve. Okay. Now, generally when times are good, USA would buy petroleum from Gulf countries. But when Gulf countries stopped exporting petroleum to USA, USA basically utilized its emergency reserve. So USA created this emergency reserve so that in times of supply shortage, it can use it. Okay. Basically, it's like a buffer for petroleum. All right. Now, Canada has a strategic reserve for maple syrup. China has a strategic reserve for metals, grains, and even pork. So different countries create strategic reserves for different commodities based on their circumstances. Okay. Now, USA is talking about creating a stock of Bitcoin collection, strategic reserve for Bitcoin. So USA is going to buy a lot of Bitcoins and keep it for emergencies. Okay. That would be a strategic reserve for Bitcoin. Now, why did Donald Trump announce this? Okay, what sort of advantages USA stands to gain by creating a strategic reserve for Bitcoin? Well, there are three basic benefits that would come out of strategic reserves for Bitcoin. First of all, by creating a strategic reserve for Bitcoin, USA would possess a lot of Bitcoins, right? And it would be able to dominate crypto market, okay, especially Bitcoin market. So whenever because USA has so many Bitcoins, USA can manipulate price of Bitcoin also. Whenever USA feels that the price of Bitcoin is too high, it will start selling Bitcoin from its strategic reserves, thereby increasing the supply. And when supply increases more than demand, then prices drop. When USA feels that the price of Bitcoin is very low, then USA will start buying Bitcoin. So demand for Bitcoin would increase and prices would start to increase. So through this, USA would be able to dominate crypto market, manipulate prices of cryptocurrencies. Okay. Now, domination over crypto market is very important for USA so that USA can outcompete China and Russia. Okay. Then, as we can see that Bitcoin steadily rises, Bitcoin always rises. Okay. Cryptocurrencies steadily rise. Therefore, if USA keeps a strategic reserve of Bitcoin, their prices would increase in future and USA would stand to gain from that increase in price. So it would be basically a sort of investment by USA government and USA would gain a lot of capital gain. Through this, USA can even reduce its deficit. When USA government is running losses, it can compensate for those losses through the price increase of its strategic reserve. So USA can fulfill or USA can compensate for its deficit without increasing taxes on its people. Now, this would really strengthen US dollar and a strong US dollar would help USA compete against China and Russia who are trying to create an alternative currency. Okay, so USA's dollar would get strong because of this. USA would gain money out of this and USA would be able to manipulate and dominate crypto market because crypto market is a reality now. People are using cryptocurrency. Okay, now, many people are happy with this announcement, but some people say that it is a risky proposition. Now, what are the risks? Crypto skeptics say that unlike most other commodities, Bitcoin has no intrinsic value. Okay? The thing is that strategic reserves of other things like petroleum, maple syrup, gold, uh, pork, grains, metals, strategic reserves for these commodities has value. Why? Because these commodities are valuable. Okay, petroleum is valuable, it is used in different things. Gold is valuable, it has internal value. Bitcoin is nothing. Bitcoin is, I mean, it is not even a physical commodity, it is not even a physical thing, it has no intrinsic value, right? So its strategic reserves might crash one day. USA today the prices are $107,000, it might drop to zero because cryptos have no intrinsic value. Okay, so USA is going to take a big gamble through this. Now, the thing is that people are saying that USA government would stand to gain a lot of capital gain. The prices of crypto would increase in future. But throughout its history, since its formation in 2008, Bitcoin prices have been volatile. That means they rise, but they fall too. And when they fall, it would lead to a lot of losses for USA government. Right? Now, this is problematic. So USA should be very careful while creating strategic reserves for Bitcoin. It might have their advantages, it might have some advantages, but it also has some risks and vulnerabilities. Okay, so this is the thing. Now, if this experiment by USA becomes successful, then mark my words, other countries would follow suit. Countries like India, Europe, Australia would also start to create strategic reserves, but only if this experiment by USA becomes successful. All right. That's about it as far as topic number 1 is concerned. Let's move on to topic number 2, which is sovereign gold bond scheme. Now, the government is considering discontinuing the sovereign gold bond scheme due to the high cost of financing fiscal deficit through this scheme. Okay. Officials believe that the aim of the scheme was to promote investment in gold, but the recent cut in import duty on gold has helped raise demand for gold. So the purpose of this scheme was to raise investment in gold, which is already taking place because government has reduced import duty on gold. So people are already buying gold. So you don't need this scheme to generate interest in gold. All right. Now, the question is, what is sovereign gold bond scheme? What was sovereign gold bond scheme and why is the government thinking about discontinuing this scheme? Okay. So basically, the thing is, many people buy gold as an investment, right? Because they feel that the price of gold would rise in future. Rarely price of gold falls. It only rises in long term. So if you buy gold today, which is, let's suppose, 60,000 per 10 gram, okay, that would increase to 70,000 one day and increase to 1 lakh one day, and you'll stand to gain out of it. Okay. So most Indians invest in gold. One purpose of investing in gold is to fulfill obligations like marriages, festivals, and all that. The other purpose is using gold as an investment instrument. So Indian government knew that people invest in gold, right? But there is not enough gold in the world. Make sense? There is not enough gold in the world. How can there be enough gold to fulfill all the demands of all the people, right? So government said that instead of buying physical gold, buy a piece of paper from us. Okay, that piece of paper would be priced equivalent to the gold price. So let's suppose there is a piece of paper called sovereign gold bond, and that is a sovereign gold bond for 10 grams. So the price of buying this piece of paper would be same as price of buying 10 grams of gold. Okay. Now, after 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, if the price of 10 grams of gold increases, you can sell this piece of paper for that increased price. So it's like you are investing in gold without buying physical gold, right? Now, this was basically done because India does not have enough gold. So India has to import gold. Now, people were importing physical gold, which increased India's import bill. So, government wanted to give people an option of investing in gold without increasing import bill, without the need for importing physical gold, right? So, government launched this scheme. So, government said that the best, the advantage of investing in this sovereign gold bond scheme is it is like buying gold, but in a paper form, right? So, one advantage is you are kind of investing in gold without the need for buying physical gold. Okay, paper gold. Plus, when you buy gold, you're really afraid of it being stolen, right? Storage of gold is a big challenge for people who buy gold. There is no need for that in this case also. Plus, to attract people, government said that if you invest in this paper gold, you will get an interest of 2.5% per annum, which you don't get in physical gold. If you buy physical gold, you don't get interest, right? But in this case, you'll get an interest. So this actually incentivized people for opting for this gold bond instead of buying physical gold, which reduced India's gold imports, India's import bill, right? This is what sovereign gold bond was. So sovereign gold bonds are debt securities issued by RBI on behalf of government, with each unit denoting a gram of gold. So one gold bond, one piece of paper is equivalent to 1 gram of gold. Okay. Interest on SGBs is fixed at 2.5% per annum, and it is credited to your bank account every 6 months. Okay. Now, the tenure of this bond, the total term of this bond is 8 years, but you have an option of selling this fifth year, sixth year, seventh year at a market price. So then market price. Okay, let's suppose you bought this sovereign gold bond, 1 gram or sovereign gold bond at, let's suppose, 10,000. After 5 years, it becomes 50,000. Now you have the option of selling this at 50,000 or waiting for a couple of more years. Okay, so it is zero risk, regular fixed income because of this 2.5%. No making charges. Of course, you're not buying jewelry, pure gold and tradable gold. In a sense, you can buy and sell this piece of paper. Okay, this was the benefit of buying or investing in sovereign gold bond. Plus, best part was that people who invested in these sovereign gold bonds, they gave money. Now that money used to go to the government. Okay, and government used that money to fund its expenditure. So in a sense, you're giving government money for 8 years, right? If you decide not to sell this gold bond for 8 years, so you're giving a kind of loan to the government for 8 years, and you're getting 2.5% interest rate. So this was a very good way for government to finance its expenditure, right? So it was a win-win situation. It was a win-win situation for investor. It was a win-win situation for the government, right? But why has the government decided to discontinue this? First of all, cost benefit mismatch. Remember, just a few seconds ago, I said it was a win-win situation. It was a win for the investor like you and me. It was a win for the government, right? But recently government analyzed that this scheme was kind of a win for investor, but not that much of a win for the government. Why? Because from other, government can borrow that much money from other sources which would be cheap for government. Now this is a very costly thing for the government, borrowing through sovereign gold bonds. Why? Because first of all, for 8 years you get this money, and for 8 years you pay 2.5 interest rate. That's okay. But after 8 years you have to pay the investor the amount that is equivalent to the market price of gold. Now that becomes a lot of headache for the government. So government says that cost of borrowing this amount through sovereign gold bonds is very high for us. It's not that much of a win for us, but it's a win for the investor. Okay, so we will borrow from other bonds and other sources, not sovereign gold bonds. Okay, plus government said it's not a social scheme also. It is not benefiting poor. It's not a welfare scheme. It is a scheme for investors. It is not a welfare scheme. So we are not, I mean, it's not compulsory for us to continue with this scheme. It was not benefiting any poor people. It was benefiting mostly rich people. So we can discontinue this. Plus, government said that we can borrow money. I'm sorry. Another purpose of sovereign gold bonds was to encourage people to invest in gold, but not physical gold, paper gold. Now the government says that that purpose is being fulfilled already. Government has reduced import duty on physical gold. So people are already investing in physical gold. So there is no need for sovereign gold bonds because people are already opting for physical gold. So why are we borrowing that much amount at such a high cost for us? Let's discontinue this because people are already investing in physical gold. People are mostly more interested in physical gold. So let's discontinue this. That is the reason why government is discontinuing with this scheme. All right. Okay. Now let's move on to third news item, which is Barley for Punjab farmers. Scientists, experts, agricultural experts are saying that Punjab's farmers should quit rice and wheat and opt for barley. Now, why are they saying so? The thing is that look, most of the Punjab's farmers are trapped in this cropping cycle, which is called monoculture of wheat and rice. Okay, most Punjab's farmers grow rice during the monsoon kharif season. Okay, so they grow rice during the monsoon season or the kharif season, and then after harvesting rice, they grow during the winters or rabi season wheat. Okay, and then again summers come, so rice again next year kharif season, wheat again rabi season, and this cycle goes on and on. So rice, wheat, repeat, rice, wheat, repeat. Now this is known as monoculture of wheat and rice, and Punjab's farmers have been following this monoculture of wheat and rice. Now the problem with this culture is that because of lack of crop diversification, soil fertility has declined in Punjab, because soil fertility improves with crop diversification. When you grow different crops on same land, but you're growing only wheat and rice, so soil fertility declined. Now, because of that, because to compensate for declining soil fertility, you increase the amount of fertilizers, right? Now, these fertilizers, Punjab's farmers started using more fertilizers. Now, these fertilizers in turn further destroyed soil fertility. So, Punjab farmers had to use more fertilizers, right? Therefore, because in Punjab the soil is so barren that fertilizer cost for farmers has increased dramatically. Now, this creates a lot of financial burden also. So, Punjab's farmers, because they are using wheat and rice monoculture, their fertilizer or input cost has increased. So, one problem is that they have high input cost because soil fertility has declined because of lack of crop diversification and increased use of fertilizers. So, their input cost has increased. They use so much fertilizer and pesticide because without that, their crops won't grow because their soil is not that good. Plus, another problem with wheat and rice is that they are very much water intensive. They are water guzzlers. Rice consumes a lot of water, wheat consumes a lot of water. And because of that, the water table in Punjab has declined dramatically. Punjab soil is becoming like a desert because they are growing wheat and rice, and wheat and rice consume a lot of water. So Punjab is becoming dead. The soil is becoming dead. Punjab is facing severe water shortages because of this. So agricultural scientists are saying that give up this monoculture of wheat and rice and instead grow barley. The advantage of barley is that it can even grow on poor soil. So there is no problem of fertility. Okay, it can grow on poor soil. Then another advantage of barley is it uses less water, very less water as compared to wheat and rice. Okay, so it can grow on poor soil. It does not require that much water. Plus, it does not require that much fertilizer also. So your input cost also declines. So most of the Punjab's farmers who are in debt because of high input cost, their input cost would reduce, their debt would reduce, their water table would improve, Punjab's soil would improve, and they would also earn income by selling barley. So barley is a better option to wheat than growing wheat. Basically, barley is a better option to wheat, right? So this is what the agricultural scientists are saying. All right. So let's talk about barley. So barley is a major cereal crop which grows in temperate climates, mostly cold climates of the world. Okay. In India, it is grown during the winters, during Rabi season. Okay. Now, barley was first grown by humans in 9000 BC in Mesopotamia, which is the region currently in Iraq. Now, barley requires the same geographical conditions as wheat. That is why most of the wheat producing regions of India can only grow barley. First of all, it requires winter season. That is why it can be grown during winter's Rabi season. Plus, it requires the same soil or same geographical conditions, climate conditions as wheat. But the advantage with barley is it is more tolerant to poor soil. It is more tolerant to less rainfall. Now, major barley producers are UP, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh. Okay. Plus, barley has other advantages also. First, I've told you it has low input cost, not much fertilizer is required, not much seeds are required. It is less water intensive. Plus, barley has many nutritional benefits. Wheat has very high levels of gluten, which has very high glycemic index. Now, if you consume foods which have very high glycemic index, it leads to diseases like diabetes, high cholesterol, and whatnot. Barley has low glycemic index, so I mean your chances of having diabetes gets reduced, your chances of high cholesterol gets reduced. So there are high nutritional advantages, high farmer level advantages, so you should opt for barley. All right. And our last news item of the day is PM Modi's visit to Kuwait. So PM Modi will visit Kuwait on December 21, 22 for what will be first visit by an Indian PM in 43 years. So he'll be the first PM to visit Kuwait in 43 years. Now the visit comes soon after the fall of Assad dynasty in Damascus, Syria, right? Whose consequences could involve a radical restructuring of regional order in Middle East. So Middle East is currently going through a flux because of what happened in Syria. So that is why India's engagement with Gulf countries, Arab countries is very significant. And that is why this visit in Kuwait is very important. Plus, Kuwait currently holds the presidency of Gulf Cooperation Council. Okay. So that is why Kuwait becomes very important for India's engagement with Gulf countries. And Gulf countries are very important for India because most of India's crude oil and natural gas comes from Gulf countries. Plus, many Indians work in Gulf countries. So Gulf countries are very important for India. And currently, engaging with Kuwait is important because Kuwait is president of Gulf Cooperation Council this year. So, India's broader engagement with Gulf countries goes through Kuwait, and that is why this visit is important. Okay, now let's talk a bit about Kuwait. So, as far as the geographical location of Kuwait is concerned, as you can see over here in this map, this is Kuwait, right? It is situated in the northern edge of Arabian Peninsula at the tip of Persian Gulf. So, this is Persian Gulf. At the tip of Persian Gulf is Kuwait. Bordering Iraq, this is Iraq, okay, to the north, and to its south is Saudi Arabia. Okay, now Kuwait is not a democracy. As far as political system is concerned, like most Arab states of Persian Gulf, Kuwait is an emirat. Emirati means there is a royal family which completely rules over this country. Like Saudi Arabia, like UAE, like Qatar. Okay, so sultans, emir rule over Kuwait. The family that rules over Kuwait is Al Sabah family. Now, Kuwait is a rich income country, high income country. Per capita income of Kuwait is high, and mostly because Kuwait has sixth largest oil reserves in the world. Now, why is Kuwait significant for India? Well, it is a reliable supplier of crude oil. India imports a lot of crude oil. India imports a lot of liquefied petroleum gas, LPG. Plus, many Indians, 1 million Indians work in Kuwait. Okay, so there is strong people to people contact also. All right. Now, just a few seconds ago, I mentioned Gulf Cooperation Council, right? So let's gather a few facts regarding Gulf Cooperation Council as well. Okay. So Gulf Cooperation Council is a group of 6 countries in the Arabian Peninsula. These 6 countries are Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and UAE. Okay. Its headquarters are in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and it was established in 1981, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. The main aim of this council is to promote economic, security, cultural, social cooperation between these 6 states, and it is basically a political alliance between these 6 states. Okay, together these 6 countries, GCC, possess almost half of the world's oil reserves. So 50% of crude oil belongs to these 6 countries. Okay, plus GCC is India's largest trading partner. Okay, a regional bloc, there are many regional blocks, like GCC is a regional bloc, EU is a regional bloc. So among regional blocks, GCC is India's largest trading partner, so it is that significant for India. All right, and that would be all. With that, we conclude today's session. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and please, 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 I couldn't emphasize on this more. Please do not forget to revise this lecture, because revision is very important for consolidating these current affairs, remembering these current affairs for longer periods of time. So please spend another 20 minutes revising this lecture as well. All right. On that note, I'll be signing off. Thank you so much, everyone.